Good afternoon, and welcome to our March 2015 SendMyAd Tips and Tricks Training Webinar. I'm Herb Randall, and I'll be leading you through a tutorial today. Our agenda, we're going to cover how to create a new publication. It's something that you may never have done if we set them up for you when you initially started using SendMyAd. Or it's maybe something that you don't do very often, and you may have questions about how you might do that should you need to add a new title. It's kind of a neat thing to cover because it'll touch on a lot of different things. When you set up a new publication, you have to think about some various settings, including how to handle notifications and approvals. We'll talk about issues, a couple different ways to set those up. We will talk about ad sizes, how to manage those, and some features of color profiles and Preflight profiles that you may not be aware of. And we'll take your questions either as they come in, or you can submit questions and we'll tackle them at the end. So just a little housekeeping here. The GoToWebinar client that you're using has a zoom button that will let you expand the screen. I'm on a fairly large monitor, so you may need to do that to see all of the presentation. Questions you can type into the client, and we'll take those when it's appropriate. Okay, let's get started. We've got quite a bit to cover. All right, I'm logged in as a publisher user. Your user has to have some specific rights, which you probably know are assigned by the group, but a standard publisher administrator account will be able to do all of the things that I'm going to show you today. My demo publisher here has a few features that you may not have enabled, so there may be a few options and a few screens that you're not familiar with. One of those includes tablet ads. So you'll see some things in there. We're not going to focus on those today, but you'll see them, and I'll point them out when you're in those screens. But let's get started with actually making a brand new publication. So the way you do that is you go to the left menu, Manage Publications, and there's this action button here. You click that, and menu. Click that, and you'll get Add Publication. This is where you'll supply some basic information. And one really important thing to get correct right off the bat is trim size. You really need to have that be correct, and I'll show you why in a moment. But if you're at all unsure, if you need to double check your math on the decimal points, please do that now, because it will be a little harder for you later if you don't do that correctly right up front. The publication contact is what we also call the default materials contact. This is the user, an internal staff user that you've already set up, who will become the default contact for many of our notifications. So a lot of times, if you select the right user there, you won't have to bother with setting up any specific things with the notification. So you can also select a right group, and the right group will let you select the right group that has permissions to see the publication. So this is an option that you may not be using, and I'll show you where that comes up. But you can manage your users and who has access to the publications. So this is something we added not terribly long ago. We used to have a problem where if you were managing your users by publication, you'd end up sometimes creating a publication and then you couldn't see it. Because you might not have the rights to see it. So it was kind of a catch-22, but we've now fixed that. So right up front, you can at least assign this to a group that you belong to, and then you're able to go ahead and complete setting up the title. So let's just select that here and hit save. And we get our new publication here. Now, what we can do is we can edit some settings here on the left panel. A lot of this stuff is information only. It's metadata that helps you track the various bits of information that might be useful to you. So if your publication has a website, you can put that in here. Okay, we don't really use that for anything. It may display in certain areas, but it's not something that is really relevant. It's not something that we key any information off of. We do have the bleed size and safety size, which you ought to be sure are correct over here. And the reason is that there are, especially in some cases where we might be automatically handling some trim settings and some safety settings for you automatically, we may need to key off of those values at the publication level. So it's a good idea to double check those and be sure that those are correct. Printing process, bind type, proof stock. You can actually create various types of proof stock and select those here. This stuff, a lot of it doesn't come into play in SendMyAd. If you use our companion product, Virtual Publisher, it may be more significant. But again, in this case, it's mostly just for information. Okay. All of that is kind of falls under that category. Change cover. You can select an image file, and that will appear in your in the various screens that the user sees. It might help them just recognize your titles a little better. So you can do that. Okay, now a very important thing here is our checklist, and this tells us what we have to do in order to make this publication ready to receive ads. Right now, because we have some problems, users can't access this title. Okay, if they go to the upload form, it won't even appear. We've got to have one issue, and we have to have a color profile. Implied in that is we also have to have a Preflight profile, because that's assigned at the color profile setup. So we know that those things have got to be dealt with. Let's, though, take a look at the other settings area here first. And there's a few things that we need to be sure are connected. One is the advertisers to upload to this title. Obviously, there's not a lot of use for the publication if the advertisers can't see it. But while you're maybe working on this, maybe you're tweaking your ad sizes and you just don't want advertisers to see it, you can always turn that off. And that gives you a way to stage this, be sure it's correct, and then enable it when you are ready. That displayed materials contact, that's me, and that was what I set up in that first form when we created this. So we can do that. You can change it here. Those are the same contacts that I saw on that first upload form. And that is the default receiver for a lot of the notifications. So if I know that I want to receive most of the notifications, that's an easy, quick way to save me some configuration later. And we'll talk a little bit about that again in a moment. Disable ad reception 0 days before the issue run date. This is a really handy feature, and it's one that's often overlooked. It's kind of tucked here in the middle of some other items, and you just may not notice it. But what this does is it lets you automatically stop receiving ads before the run date based on the number of days before the run date expires. Typically, you give, we'll talk about this more in the issues, but you give a materials due date to the advertiser. That's your soft deadline. And then the issue run date, which is your hard deadline. And this lets you kind of enforce that. So it's not just a polite, please send us your ads. It's like, hey, send us your ads, and we're going to cut you off, 2 days before the issue runs. So that's a way for you to really enforce your policy. Ad proof delivery location. This is a relatively new item. It defaults to the publisher's address, which is what you set up when you set up your company. But you can also have an interface here to add different addresses where a proof might be delivered to. So if you have a production facility with a different address, that can be added there. Okay, and then there's a couple items here where you're able to create some custom messages. And when in doubt about where these things actually appear or what these things do, any of these options, we do have help text here. So I'd encourage you to look at that first before being puzzled or having to support a submit ticket or a support ticket. Check to see what our help text will guide you towards. And in this case, it tells us that it's the upload form for the advertisers, and it's an HTML compatible field. And you can create your own disclaimer there. We have people who link to their media kits on their website, anything you want to put there. And then the last one is the print ad closing dates message. And this will appear when people are looking at at the ad size interface. So just a little extra information there for them. The tablet ad settings, again, if you don't have tablets enabled in your portal, you don't even see this section. So we won't really get into that now. But it is there. And if you do have tablet ads, you'll want to pay attention to a couple of things there. Now, under actions, this is something you'll want to visit, and you'll want to look at two things. You can generally go ahead and complete your setup for the publication, and then you can come back to this area and work on your notifications and your approval cycles. Those are typically things that you think about towards the end of this setup process. But since we're here in the screen, let's just mention that we have under Manage Notification, we can by type of file received, we can say which person or groups will receive our notifications. So these are all of the print ad emails that we've enabled. And you can see what I meant earlier. By me selecting myself as the default materials contact in that very first screen, I can now just automatically receive all of those notifications. So you can see that it makes your life easier. You don't even have to check this if you know that you've assigned it to the right person when you create the publication. But if you decide that actually there's a group that needs to have different access to these notifications, you can set that up right here. Okay. And again, if you have tablet ads, you have a whole different set of notifications, and they can go to different people. So you may have a one unit that works on print ads and another on tablet ads. Set up a group for them, and then they can get those notifications. So that's where we configure those. The other thing is approval cycles. If you use publisher approval cycles, this is where you would configure them for this publication. Now, we're not going to get too deeply into this now, but I'll just say that if you're not familiar with it, in your company profile, you can set up a system-wide publisher approval workflow. So maybe you've got like a legal approval, and you've got a color approval, and then you've got like a final approval. You can set those up as different steps, and those will apply for all of your publications. But if you want to have a custom workflow for approvals for this new publication, this is where you'd set them up. You just simply hit add, you give it a name, assign who it's going to, who's going to be in this. So I can make myself an approver, and we won't go through all these steps, but Suffice it to say that I can create as many steps as I want. Anything configured at this publication level will override that global publisher level approval. So if you use that workflow, it's very important that you go in and be sure that you're happy with what that setup is. Okay. All right, let's move on to issues. Because this is a brand new publication, there's no issues here at all, and we need to add them. So let's add one right now. You can give it a name and a code. I would encourage you to use a code as well as the name. If you don't have one, I mean, most people have a code for their issues, but even if you don't, something that is logical based on the issue name is very nice to have, because we use that code in various things like bulk actions and things like delivery. So sometimes it might be easier to, in a long delivery path, it might look nicer and easier for people, instead of having a long name with the issue with spaces or symbols, to have a simplified code. So highly useful to have. Okay, and then now we have 3 dates, and yours may look different again if you have Virtual Publisher enabled. This publisher does not. So I get the ad materials due date, the issue run date, and the on sale date. If you click here, you'll get a calendar, and you can fill these out. I'm just making stuff up here. Okay, that looks logical. As I said before, the ad materials due date, that is your soft deadline that you tell the advertisers. Now, of course, advertisers never listen to you, and they want to send their stuff late. The issue run date is your hard date, where you just simply can't take materials after that, unless, of course, it's your biggest advertiser. But the issue run date is that one where, back at the publication details, where I said we can cut off access to upload ads X number of days before it's this date, the issue run date. The on sale date, it's in this case, it's really more informational, but it's good to put there for reference. Okay, we hit save, and now we have some extra information that we can fill out. So again, a lot of this stuff is simply informational. It's not things that we necessarily need to use for other things. But if you have a volume and issue number, you can do that. You can tag it as a regular or special issue. Things that start to become interesting, though, are things like making the issue visible or not. So if you just simply don't want this issue to appear for people, again, maybe you're working on it. Maybe it's a special issue that you're not ready to announce yet, but you want to have it set up. You can toggle that on or off. Disable print ad reception, that's sort of the manual override. It works just like that disable access X number of days before the run date, but it just lets you manually say, hey, nobody should be able to send ads to me. You just basically are disabling the issue. The important thing is that it keeps it there for you. You can always turn it back on within the limits of your deadlines. But it's a good kind of like master switch to turn this on or off. If you have tablet ads, you can turn those on right here. And that means that you can have some issues that allow tablet ads and some that don't. You can actually do this so that you've got like a print ad issue and a tablet ad issue if you decide to separate them at that level. Okay, the deadlines, if you need to edit those after creating them, this is where you'd do that. Tablet ads also have like a separate deadline there. Okay, so again, you can tweak those as much as you need from this interface. Okay, now that's all well and good. But what if you really you need to set up a lot of issues? You've just created this publication. You want to set up issues for the next year. Well, this was a little bit of a cumbersome way to do this. It's good for one or two, but if you want a more efficient way to do this, there's really an underused area here called manage issues. This is it's one of my favorite parts in SendMyAd because it's really powerful when you're doing setup. It also gives you a nice interface to show you at a quick glance what issues you've got and the status of them. So here I switch to my new publication, and I can see right here the critical information. But I can do the add issue from here. Okay, that gives me the exact same interface that we saw before. But better yet, I can do something called create auto issues. I know most publications go on a schedule that's regular, and you can do something like this. You can say, create me a monthly issue. Let's name it based on the run date, let's say. Give it the number of issues. Let's do 6 issues. Let's start with a material due date. Let's say, I'll just pick anything. And here you can offset the run date. So you can say that actually I want my run date to be 7 days from there. And then my ship date is 10 days from that. And then my on sale after that. Okay, let's create our issues. And you can see right there that just very, very quickly, it created 6 issues for me. It gives them a name based on the run date, which is right here. You can see that that comes 7 days after my add materials date. The other dates fell the way they should. Okay, and maybe you don't really like these auto names, but now all you have to do is go in and just rename them. Okay, so you really, if you do publish on a regular schedule and you can do that, it's a really quick way to get all your issues in really fast, and then you just go in and tweak the things that you want to change. So maybe those dates are just slightly off. But if you need to add a year's worth of issues or 2 years worth of issues, that's a really great way to do that. Now, if you want even more control, there's a new feature for importing issues. And this works based on a spreadsheet file. So if you have an Excel spreadsheet, you would export it out as a comma-separated text file, a CSV file. And we tell you right up front what the required fields are. So we want your publication name or code, the issue name or issue code. That's one of these cases where the code is pretty handy. You give it a due date, a run date, a ship date, an on sale date, and an optional description. All you have to do then is browse for your file, import it, and you'll get all your issues created with exactly what you want. Okay, so all your dates will be correct, your issue names will be correct. So if you have that data already, this is a great way to do it. It's accurate. You don't have to go back in and tweak stuff. Okay, but you do have to have the data. You have to spend the time making the Excel sheet. So, but this is a relatively new thing. It's I think an awesome feature, and this actually came from a customer request, but we think everybody will benefit from that. Okay, let's switch back to our publication. Hey, you can see that we've made a little progress. We took care of our issues, and when we look at it, we can see that our issues actually are all valid issues. So our checklist says, okay, all you need now is color profiles. Well, that's great. Well, let's go though to our next tab over, which is ad sizes. This is why I said be sure your math is right up front, because you can see that we automatically created the most common ad sizes as part of the new publication. If your math is off in the very beginning, then sadly, you'll have to go one by one and remove them. Okay. So, and then add the right ones. So do yourself a favor, double check your decimals, be sure that you're right, and then you have an easier time of this. We'll create, there's 5 different ones that we'll create for you. The full page, the half page, horizontal and vertical, a quarter page, square type ad, and a spread page. Okay, so those we found are the most common ones. And what we do is we give it a name, we give it a code. Again, those are sometimes helpful for easier matching. The trim size, bleed size, safety area, all of these are editable. If you have bleed that is not even, just simply uncheck the on all sides and edit the sides that you need. Same deal with safety, let you control each of the 4 sides. Okay, not a commonly used thing that we found in practice, but it's there. Okay, Preflight for size simply tells us that we are going to check your ads against the trim values shown. The geometry has to line up, or we're going to give an error to the user when they upload their ads. Crop to bleed on completion, that's an option. So when the file is finalized, the bleed will be chopped to what you specify here. Force dimensions on upload, we can try to be sure that the boxes are correct based on the ad sizes. Generally, people don't enable these. We do have some customers for their specific workflows that need to have those on. Now here, we give you even finer control over when to stop receiving these ads. So you can say that, let's say for your partial ads, that requires some extra work on your part to place those in your pages. And so you may say that you actually prefer to receive those, let's say, 6 days before your issue run date. Okay, and you can do that for each of your sizes. Okay, your full pages obviously easier in most cases, so you may not worry about those, but the partial pages may be more work for you. And extra information, if there's anything particular about this specific size that you'd like to display to your advertisers, that will appear on the upload form for them when they select this size as an option. Okay, and then delivery locations. We have a couple delivery locations set up for this demo publisher, and you can simply say that you want to use this delivery location for this particular ad size. There's a more efficient way to do this in your delivery location setup. If you are creating new publications and you already have some delivery locations set up, please visit your company profile, delivery destinations, and there you can associate an existing delivery location with all of your ad sizes at once. So you don't have to go through and do this for everything. All right, so our ad sizes are all here. You can add new ones if you want, and you just give it a name. That'll create a new ad size for us, and it brings up that same interface. You fill out your trim, your bleed, your safety, get that correct, and it's ready to receive ads for you. All right, we're going to skip over tablet ad sizes. Just know that it's here if you do have the tablet portal, and these are sizes that you've configured in other places, and you can select them here. Okay, color profiles and Preflight profiles are kind of a special case, and you can see that I already have color profiles here, and I already have Preflight profiles, just like I already had ad sizes. The thing that confuses people, and that's a little different, is that ad sizes are created when you make the publication, and they belong to just that publication. Okay. Color profiles and Preflight profiles, they actually are associated with the publisher, with the company. And what we're looking at here is simply a way to easily configure them, but also to associate them with this particular publication. And color profiles are, you can have multiple color profiles per publication. So the key thing to remember here is that what we're looking at in color profiles and Preflight profiles are exactly the ones that you'll see in your other publications. So just to prove that to you, here's one called No Errors Test. Okay, I must have created that for something else. So if I go into another publication and look at my color profiles, there it is. Okay, but if I switch to ad sizes, you'll see that my ad size list is different. I have, for example, a spread auto split. I have an up to 4 pages multi-page setup here. Okay, so you can see again that ad sizes go with the publication, color profiles, Preflight profiles go with the publisher. Okay, right now my task is to be sure that I'm happy with my color profiles, which if you have other publications set up, you probably ought to be happy with them. But if you need to tweak them, you can do that here. But the main thing is to associate it with this publication. So I can say that I'm going to use CMYK as my, I can even make it my default for ads, okay? And I'm going to use the convert to grayscale. And you can see that the for ads yes now appears. And the good thing is if I switch back to my publication details, I'm actually all done now with my setup. I actually can receive ads because I've told it that make these two choices available for my advertisers when they go to the upload form. Okay, let's quickly run through some of these settings. We're kind of running long here, so let me pick out a couple interesting things and make you aware of those, and then we'll wrap up. So once you've said that, hey, I'm going to use this, the next most important thing to do is to select what your Preflight profile is going to be. And you can do that right here. Now, those are just taken simply from this list. Okay, so there's a one-to-one relationship between color profiles and an associated Preflight profile. So just be aware of that as you're configuring these. You can create as many color profiles as you like. You can create as many Preflight profiles as you like. But if you find that you need to have some way to verify a particular group of ads in a certain way with our Preflighting, you may need to have a couple different color profiles that then use the proper Preflight profile to handle the checking of color but more importantly other types of file integrity. So that's where we set up that association. We'll talk a little bit about what these do a little bit later. Again, you can add as many as you want. You just simply hit this add button up here. Okay, output intent. Here we can upload ICC color profiles. This is something that we need to do as the software owner. We have to install particular ICC profiles and make them available in this list. But this simply means that if you've set this option and you want something else other than the default value, we can set the output intent in our PDF X1As to any of these choices. Okay, so if you have a particular workflow that requires these and you don't see what you want in this menu, let us know in support and we can look at adding that for you. The other option we have here is how to handle converting colors. So if you have a CMYK profile and you want to convert the color, then you select that here. If you don't, this is a CMYK profile and you do not want to convert the colors, well, then that tells you that you probably, under spot color channels, you probably want to warn the user or even reject the file, okay? Because we're not going to try to convert it. That's got to be handled by the user. So these things go hand in hand, and you have to really think through how you want to handle these things. I'm sure you've looked through this stuff before, and you have probably a good grasp of how this works. But basically, each of these criteria for pre-flighting will appear here, and you can select ignore, warn, or reject. Okay. The pre-flight profiles work the same way, and a couple things that you'll want to be aware of is the file output settings. The important one here is, do you want a PDF X1A 2001 or 2003? The quick overview of those you're probably aware of. The 2001s are a PDF 1.3 file, and the 2003 spec is 1.4. There's differences in how transparencies are handled and some other technical things. So we do give you the option to convert your files to one or the other. And we also, more recently, it's been here for a while, but you can also export a PDF X4. Okay, and so that's an option. And then here in the size specs, an important thing to understand is the trim size. We give you a tolerance. So when we're checking an ad size, we've turned on that thing in the ad size editor to pre-flight to size. This is where you give a tolerance. So if you don't want to have it be exactly 0 generally, or you may end up unnecessarily complicating your user's life and forcing them to trim all the time when they're just barely off. Okay. And here's where you also can automatically adjust the bleed of the ads when they come in based on the ad spec bleed. Okay, so a couple kind of handy features. And the rest of these are, again, we're talking about file integrity, that things meet the resolution requirements for your images, and things like that. Okay, so this was kind of a, believe it or not, kind of a quick tour through some of this. This is when you create a publication, it's generally a quick process. It depends on how many issues you've got and how many you're entering. But once you're in SendMyAd, you've used it, this shouldn't be a scary process. It's pretty straightforward. So, all right, if anyone has any questions, we'll tackle those now. Okay, there's a good one asking about can a publication be copied or cloned? And the answer is yes. There's an option right here back at our publication details, actions, duplicate. And you can just give it a name. Okay, it picks up the trim size. And you can create it. I'm not sure, that might be a bug there. It didn't have a save button for me. All right, well, we'll check that. But generally, you can create a copy of your publication, and the good thing that does for you is it preserves your ad sizes. Okay, so if you spent a lot of time with a publication and you've created all your ad sizes correct, rather than going back and creating a brand new publication, you're better off doing that duplicate. And then you'll pick up all your ad sizes. Okay. And then a final question people ask is, can you remove a publication? And the answer is yes. Okay, when you hit remove there, we're going to give you this warning that, hey, think about this before you do it. There's no ads connected to this publication right now. However, if you have already been using this publication and there are ads, you're really going to have a hard time using those ads. So that's not typically something that you do. You would probably more want to disable the publication by removing the issues, making it not available. Okay. So removing a publication, we typically do when you're, again, doing the setup and you want to remove it because you made a fundamental mistake like the trim size. All right, well, that's it for today. Thank you for joining us. And if you have any suggestions for topics for future webinars, we'd love to hear those. So you can send those to your support rep, your sales rep, or to us in support. We'd be happy to add those to a next month's agenda. Thank you again for joining us. Goodbye.